Rebel.
Mhm.
And now that we kind of can see all of the champions, does it change your opinion about which matchups are really important and where the crux of this game is going to be?
So I had originally said mid lane, and I think both mid laners can make pretty massive impacts across the map. If you're likely to see roaming happen, it's pretty highly likely to come out of this mid lane between both the ultimate from the Vex and then the roaming pace abilities from the Ahri. So I don't think that's ridiculous at all. That's where my eyes were drawn to start off the series, and it seems like that's a very high logical place to see more interaction. The other big thing, again, the support matchup, it becomes a lot more interesting as well. The Xayah versus Jhin matchup isn't one that I've seen all that often, and I really wanted to talk about how Palette has this very interesting stat on them, which is it's not one that's carried through all. It does sound like it's very kind of forward or very direct to say, but the higher kill participation and the more assists that Palette has in a game oftentimes leads to SBTC having more, which isn't true of every support. Like, this isn't just a stat that like works everywhere. You'd think like, oh, higher KDA, higher kill participation usually is a good thing, but Palette really is directly correlated with their win values when it comes to how much interaction that Palette has with the map. So I'm in favor of Palette getting out and roaming at least a little bit. So that's why I think walking into this game, SBTC's composition didn't strike me as being a bad one, because I didn't mind the Jhin for being alone on the bottom side, and they've got their consistent damage in Emperor and DNK, who have shown the ability to kind of do all that work inside of a team fight themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think that's something we sort of observed with Palette through his slump, and I don't think it's unfair to say that he was going through one. He had two modes. He had the modes where he would just not be involved in the game, and they would lose because they were essentially playing a 4v5. Or he had games where he would pick something like Leona or Nautilus and Q/E in 1v4, and they would lose because they were playing a 4v6. Now that Palette has kind of bounced back quite well, we're seeing him be almost a Taki-style support. So yeah, I want him to continue doing that.
Killer Queen went QE to kick off this landing phase, or kick off his jungle clear. I was a little curious. Yeah, I was very curious if he was just going to go for a level 2 gank, which is not something you always see, especially on Lee Sin. There are junglers that specialize in that, like the Jarvan, which is interesting. But again, it would have been really cool to see if Killer Queen decided to do something with that. They've got push on bottom side, and that means that the Jhin and the Nautilus are going to get shoved in. The one knock on the Nautilus and Jhin combination, again, is the lack of threat that you really have against Vitz Xayah, especially because he did go lethal tempo Xayah for a bit more of like the later stage gaming that we'll see out of this pick particularly. And given how much we've seen Vit have a pretty massive impact across a lot of the team fights and be a high performer for this team, I'm actually really happy that he decided to go for this instead of going for the lethality build.
Killer Queen poking his head in here against DNK. He should be stronger early, though of course it largely depends on who the blue buff is hitting. As in comes Coded, it's just run through Enper to get here. Should be able to keep the Gwen away with the power of the Graves. There's the end of the line, dealing a lot of damage. Now DNK coming through the gas to try and collapse onto him. Coded over the wall. Can Killer Queen land the Q? No, not quite. The Hallowed Mist is good enough to keep Enper alive, and now DNK will be sent to the Shadow Realm as DNK claims his soul.
It's a gambit right there, and I think actually a large part of this ends up being Coded's fault in the grand scheme of things, not to give too much over to Coded, but him running through the tower, pulling Emperor over to the rest of the team, and seeing that 2T ended up actually sacking quite a bit of pressure inside of the mid lane, it does mean that SBTC collapsed so much faster with multiple members. In this situation, Killer Queen was trying to salvage the last little bit of the play by flashing, going for a Q into Emperor, didn't end up hitting the ability. If he does, it almost certainly his first blood just gets traded outside of the tower. But this also means DNK has so much more in the earlier stage of the game. You talked about how Lee Sin is a stronger champion, but if DNK is able to kind of snowball any bit of a gold lead to kick the game off, things get a lot more dire for Lee Sin.
So I feel like here you can just end the play, right? That's miscommunication, surely.
It's a question of whether or not they believed that DNK and 2T would be willing to follow up into the top lane, because they still had a large distance to cover to the top lane. I think where the play could have broken was actually before Coded turned back for a second round of auto attacks in Emperor, because then you could have dashed over the wall and there would have been enough distance from 2T that it's unlikely that you would have been able to close that distance with the ultimate. So it would have just been DNK kind of walking in, and that wouldn't have ended up working out. So you're right. There was a point where they could have broken things off, but once Coded had turned back in, I think the play was in just complete salvage mode at that point.
For sure. Yeah, I completely agree, but it has gone poorly. That Killer Queen over-aggression that often wins them games, it does just as often lose them situations, as he is now down 13 farm very early in this game. The top lane is not going to be affected at all, even though Coded had to burn some, and so did Enpa. It's also Gwen versus Graves. Nothing happens in this lane. It's really only the jungle matchup that has any implications from this.
Yeah, I suppose that you could talk about how there's a 10 CS advantage for Blazes in the mid lane off the back of this, which isn't the biggest thing in the entire world. And again, our expectation, or at least my expectation, is that Blazes is the better of the two players inside of mid lane. So if he's able to capitalize on it, that could be good.
Has to use the flash to get away from that slow, but he does use it well, and Paulette's roam will not force a kill, but it's a good roam nonetheless.
It's really interesting, actually. When I was looking at these two teams and trying to come up with a discussion about the early game to talk about, actually, Luxury's brought 4 here from the bottom side. Kind of wild to see that come through. Jane can't quite push out bot lane. I'm curious if they go to Dragon off the back of this because they know 2 members are backing. But I don't know if this is a stat that's really widely pushed, but SBTC, did you know they have like an average gold lead by 15 minutes? Like,
I assume they have an average gold lead, yeah. As DNK has been collapsed on, we'll have to come back to it. As Coded trying to rattle in those shots, but now Enpa has joined the play. Killer Queen doesn't even get the blue buff. He can go over the wall if he wants to, but with Blazes coming in with the Spirit Rush, they will try and turn this around onto Enpa, but there's a Vex here as well, Rebel. This seems like way too many bridges too far. They have opened up another front that they cannot sustain the war on, and 4 of them are dead!
Absolutely incredible stuff from the side of SBTC. They have a number of members that are already ready to kind of counterpunch against Luxury, who move into topside. I was expecting them to go to Dragon. I was like, okay, they've got 2 members backing out of the bottom line. Like, they can walk into the bottom side and they can just take for the Dragon, or even put pressure on the Celebrity if they really wanted to. Instead, they curve back up the top side. They say, okay, let's try to make this play work, or at least try to make this side of the map work. And they get punished yet again off the back of both Paulette and 2T showing up to that play towards the tail end, being able to take quite a bit off the map. And it's 2 kills now for both the person that I expected to roam about and also the jungler here from the side of SBTC, which is big for being able to see. I kind of want to see how things also kicked off. DNK got so much health back at the beginning of this. Emperor gets to show up to find everything else. And you can see how much faster that Luxury actually arrives in this play. Like, DNK gets out pretty quickly. Emperor being able to survive with, like, the very tail end of things. Where is the damage? How are they not killing Emperor in this situation before anyone else arrives? I was so lost when this happened the first time, but I didn't get a lot more clarity on the second half either.
I mean, I feel like it's just a symptom of Ahri doesn't really do that much damage at this stage in the game. One of the people there was a Leona, who really cares about that damage, and Killer Queen used a lot of his spells on the blue buff. He just didn't have things up.
Yeah, still level 4 at the time too, so it wasn't even close to like anything else. Yeah, it was a tough situation to find themselves, and now they've dug themselves in a pretty ridiculous hole to kick off a game like this, which is something that was prescribed by Mobby to kick off the series. Was like, hey, Luxury kind of need to figure out how to have an early game, which is not going well for them right now.
No, it's really not. I would love to know why they think they needed to do that. Going for that first blue buff play, obviously it looks bad when we know how it goes, but hey, the first one, why not? Stick your head in, see what happens. The second one, I don't know why you do that. You have an opportunity just to go for Dragon at that point. You have the stronger bot side, because it's Xayah versus Jhin. Just go down to Dragon, secure that, and play it slow. I feel like they've got a pretty good scaling comp. I don't know why they're not confident enough in themselves to play that.
Yeah, I find it also difficult for them to be able to really challenge the positioning of it inside of a game like this. So, like, yeah, I agree entirely. Yeah.
There's a bolo that might be solo as Enpa goes under tower. He's got the scissors and he gives him the snip.
Ghost diff. I believe the Emperor pressed him just a little bit faster, and then the move speed came through. XD Ghost diff. As Coded, I mean, Coded's already been in a dire spot in this laning phase since the beginning when the gank actually didn't work out, but now you're talking plated steel caps, and there's no real AP beyond just the amp tome. That's just how strong the Gwen is at the beginning of the game. If you're Coded and you don't have the flash available and you end up getting ghosted against really quickly, the mobility that actually comes out from Gwen is really shockingly able to match what you're able to do on the Graves. You saw that on full display right there. And that opened up a position where, like, there's not a 5-man on either team going for the Rift Herald. It just opens up DNK to freely take that of his own volition right there. And so that means that, they walk away with a neutral objective basically for free off the back of that kill coming through from Emperor. It's huge punisher coming out from the side of SBTC at the beginning of this game.
Yeah, and the big thing here is now we have to start talking about perfect games, Rebel, because they're on track for it. They're obviously a long way to go. It's only 10 minutes in, but so far they have kept a clean sheet here against Luxury. But
okay,
go ahead.
Now, I have to ask, because this is important, because a few seasons ago, a pretty massive change came to the meta of, like, perfect game and what that means. If you lose a tower plate, do you lose the perfect game? Because right now there's one down.
My thesis is if you don't lose a tower plate, that's an ultra perfect game. Losing one tower plate is so ridiculously difficult to prevent, you would never see a perfect game ever again.
A perfect game 2, if you will. Yes,
yeah.
I see that. Okay, so there's like perfect games, and then there's a like double extra omega beyond perfect games, which is not losing tower plates. And so yeah, SBTC is in a position right now where they feel good about where they're at. Again, I talked about not being able to challenge the Xayah's position, and I think that might come back to bite SBTC at some point in the game. But if they're this powerful to kick things off, especially if 2T is able to find an ultimate into it before his can come off, there's a lot to be said about what SBTC is going to be able to snowball with in a composition like this. They've got this 2,500 gold lead, and they're trying to pressure. They're actually going to go into bottom side and maybe try to kick Vit and CBL out of this lane. They just bail on that idea really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, but at this point, why do anything risky? If you're SA, you're in a really good position. You have a Rift Herald in your pocket. You have the first dragon. Just hang out. You don't need to do anything right now. And based on how Killer Queen's been playing on this early game, don't worry, he'll give you some more kills soon.
It's a matter right now. I think you're 100% in the right on this, just because if SBTC decides to cool things down and they stick with the 2,500 gold lead to start things, right? You've got Rift Herald, so that's at least a couple hundred more gold. At minimum, it's going to be 2 power plates, and that means that you're up to 3,000 gold advantage. And you've got the dragon, probably second dragon in tow as well, if you decide to play out like your mid lane state, easily, or if you bring Emperor into the mix. So they're feeling great. Like, they walk out of the beginning of the game with another gold advantage, which, again, finding that stat out, finding out the fact that they on average have 15, a gold advantage of 15 minutes was unexpected for a team that is currently sitting at 3-7. I wouldn't have thought that they would have had something like that, but that is a true fact.
Killer Queen, he's just hungry for blue buff.
He really wants this blue.
He poked his head in again.
He just refuses to give it away. He's terrified of what DNK. I mean, fairness, when you got like a Vex and a Gwen on both sides to be able to give that away to, like, Killer Queen has to be poking away, I guess, is his theory here. It hasn't worked out for him though. Maybe stop doing that.
But now we have to face down the terrifying Viego with infinite mana. Oh, Ari in a lot of trouble. That is lovely CC layering there by SBTC, and they pick up the freest kill you'll ever done see.
And with that, that means that DNK can actually empower 2T a little bit more with a turret play here. I love the deployment. Oh, okay, I thought it was both bot laners, but Vit is right behind them, which is thankful to happen.
Solar Flare coming down. It misses, though. That was almost looked like it was being used on the Herald. They don't stop the charge. Luxury, they're looking very sloppy today. But, on the other hand, SBTC is looking very, very good.
SBTC is looking clean. Like, it's a position where Luxury have given them opportunities, but the cool thing is that SBTC has actually fully taken advantage of those opportunities, which is not something that necessarily can be said a lot of teams. In my opinion, there was at one point a break where it was like, we have our bottom 5 teams, which included Secret, and the difference between Secret and the bottom 4 teams was that Team Secret was able to punish mistakes, which was really nice, because there are positions where like Cerberus or Saigon or any of our top teams would have problems, and that Team Secret was the only one of these teams that was able to really punish it to any kind of extent. But now you're seeing SBTC be able to at least punish the mistakes of Luxury, which is quite nice. They get a bunch of tower plates. They're using this to go for a dragon. There's no way Luxury can challenge this. No shot.
No, but they might be able to go for a pick on Paulette as he hooks away. There's a blast cone to get DNK out. The charm will miss, and Paulette retreats to his tower. Ooh. The perfect game lives.
This has been so rough to watch from Luxury. Not only decision-making mistakes across the board, but also just like consistently having problems when it comes to individual like skill shots and mechanics and things. This was Blazes just getting caught from Paulette. Again, I love seeing Paulette roam out and about. I kind of wanted to see the tail end of that play as well. So I can
Coded.
Is this just a solo?
Coded's dodging a lot of the ult ticks. Yeah, he dodged everything there. So Enpa does not convert that.
Yeah, massive props to Coded being able to pop the ghost early enough in that one to be able to utilize that and then kind of dance around some of the snipping that came through from Emperor, because another solo kill, it would have been just completely unplayable coming out from Coded here. So happy to see that one not come through.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this Gwen is getting scarier and scarier. There's going to be a point where Coded can't contain her in the top lane. Has gone for that Eclipse as well, something we just want to keep an eye on, particularly as more and more patches are coming into the competitive scene. Shield bow is not as good.
Not in the slightest, no. Okay, breaking this mid tower would be humongous, because again, it sets up 2T for so much.
It might just be a solo kill. He's got the shadow on, but he doesn't follow it in. Didn't have the other spells.
I don't think you want to risk that Killer Queen shows up there. You don't want to risk the shutdown going into the pocket of Blazes.
No.
I like the decision-making from 2T. Again, this is something that I was actually more focused on SBTC walking into the series about, which was their decision-making, which has been really questionable from time to time coming out. It's one of the biggest boneheaded things that this team has been able to accomplish over the course of the split. This game has actually been a lot of good decision-making. That right there was a pretty good display, because again, 2T could have probably gone in and gone for a kill because we saw where everybody else was on the map. But not having that information, 2T was not able to make the rookie mistake of taking that, even if you're going to make a winning situation out of it, because of how badly he could have been punished for it. Now, did they?
They know. Really? They pinged. They know.
Okay, I was like, there's no way they just walk by that. Okay, yeah.
No, they're just faking it.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Oh, Killer Queen sniffs that out too. Props
Gets
to him.
Hooked. Gets depth charge. DNK bearing down. Uses the Heartbreaker. Follows it up with the Spectral Maw. And 2T will claim the kill. Vit can do nothing but Gale Force away.
It's another position where, like, Coded wasn't quite ready to be able to walk down into the bottom side. Blazes on the other side of the map with no teleport, kind of dealing with Emperor right now. And so it's just Vit and CBL who are here, because, Killer Queen was stuck in a bad situation. They collapsed on him so quickly. I can appreciate, once again, it was 2T blocking both the ability to queue onto something if the Raptors happen to be there, which they weren't, and then also trying to just mask a W or being able to be within range of a W were to come through from Killer Queen. So again, positioning, that was on point right there. CBL, again, all Emperor has to do is press W, and all of a sudden that CBL can't really do anything. And another play that just gets kind of neutered from the side of SBTC, as again, they continue to run this map, which is fantastic aplomb at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's very easy to look at this game and say, this is a really bad game from Killer Queen. His decision-making has not been on point. His positioning has been quite bad. And, I mean, that's not wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending him from it. However, I want to put a more positive spin on it and say that SBTC are actually just seizing on everything. I know we talked about it before as Enpa. He's taking a little bit of damage. Can he outplay this one as Vit's bearing down on him? He uses that dash. Vit not taking the tower anymore. There's the Feather Storm to get a little bit more space, but it's another dash for Enpa. Enpa will fall down, but it's immediately traded back, and my word, did he just buy some time.
Yes, he did. Absolutely. Able to get multiple members here for the return. At minimum, the shutdown does go into the pockets of Vit, which I think is a very meaningful thing. This is perhaps one of the first plays that's actually gone to the side of Luxury, and unfortunately, the perfect game is now dead, Carrick, so we don't have that in the back pocket to be able to deal with.
Oh, no. What else am I going to fill all this empty air with?
It's a matter of, I think you're right. I think SBTC have played out a pretty solid game. It's been a bit of a toss-up because Luxury has given them quite a bit in their back pocket.
Teleport coming in.
Made a really bad read.
Here's a collapse. That's a lovely Everfrost there. Out of Blazes as well. This is a good start to this fight here for Luxury. Paulette tanking up a lot of damage. Goes gold. Now Coded arrives, and SBTC want to turn it back around. Paulette is still alive. Coded needs to find one more shot onto him. He eventually will, as the Nautilus falls, but he buys enough time for the rest of SBTC to get a lot of distance out. The Q will not land. A turret falls on the top side, and SBTC still on the run. Coded brings that shotgun to bear, but they're wearing that bulletproof armor.
They are able to get out of that situation without losing all too much. Ends up just being the one kill onto Paulette, which I think they're perfectly fine with because, again, they traded that top tower. Now Luxury gets to make their first step into the game by getting some of the objective bounties and some of the tower gold off the map with the mid tower, if they can actually push it down.
Ooh, DK, careful, careful.
Okay.
Celebrity as well. 2T coming in from the side. They're going to open up with the Jin bullets as well. He's got to hit them, though. Hits one, but of course that last one just out of range, so CBL will live on a sliver. Interesting
that Luxury actually kind of decided to poke around the mid tower for the best of their abilities, because I feel like they could have just blitzed that one down as fast as possible. And now you've opened up this situation where if you get 2-3 kills on the back of that, because the two members underneath the tower and the 2T kind of flank coming in, things look great because then you snowball mid tower into 3 kills into the dragon as well, and then you walk away incredibly happy with how you feasted across the map. But because you didn't actually convert on any of that, not only do you not get the mid tower, but now SBTC, they control their 3rd Drake and set themselves up for soul point, which is not where you want to be if you're Luxury, who's down 6,000 gold at just this point in the game. All off the back of this, I want to track one thing. There were 2 TPs coming out from blue, no? Okay, no, there was just the one. For some reason, I thought that there was a second TP coming in, and that for somehow 2T ended up like getting it canceled, and I wasn't sure how that happened. But yeah, it was just Emperor to the back of the fight. You can see Paulette kind of got pinched off from the rest of his team. Everyone else is on the full retreat, and they're able to kind of make sure that this doesn't go so disastrously, because again, Luxury end up going for a mid tower play rather than, or not a mid tower. They end up looking for additional kills on the back end of that fight rather than just taking the free structure, resetting for the dragon. Which was a little bit questionable. So again, another good place where SBTC, their solid decision-making puts them in a good position as opposed to Luxury in a game like this.
It really does, but glad to see that Luxury has the mental resilience to keep trying to find plays. I hate teams that lose slowly. I've said this before. Don't lose slowly. Lose quick. Just throw things at the wall. Things don't get better for you as the time goes, and things don't get better for Killer Queen as he gets collapsed on and taken out.
Yeah, this is Killer Queen being on the side of the map that I know SBTC wants to play towards, just because they're trying to set up a position for the Baron take, which is a little bit rough to deal with. And now mid inner tower gets taken. TT is going to go back to pushing the top side. This seems like it's going to be very, very quick process to be able to snag a Baron like this with consistent damage, especially since Emperor, you can see how far pushed up they are on the bottom side of the map. When the Ghost is back up, you can challenge Coded's position. It's not a great place to be right now because Luxury, they're within range, like death range for a kill shot coming in from the side of SBTC. You can see this is what happened. Again, they're poking around the stronger side of the lane. Paulette with a nice hook. Oh, it sets up 2T. Okay. I was worried that Killer Queen was just kind of stepping into the wrong part of the jungle. He wasn't. He had support from CBL and from Coded there. He just happened to get caught out by a nice hook from Paulette in the combination with 2T, not expecting him, I guess, in the river.
Yeah, I feel like Killer Queen just read, oh, I've got my support over the wall, I can just W to him, but there was about 5 different forms of CC that prevented that. As CBL takes a little bit of a poke, but gives him the frog champ. Walks on away.
Nice to see. Top tower's getting aggressed against. It's actually the hover from Killer Queen, making sure that Blazes is free to take that one up into his own hands. There's a little bit of gold that's going to go back into... Oh, actually, 2T catches the wave just ahead of time, so they could be looking for a kill, but... Oh,
careful. There's the Everfrost. They go for the flash away, but there's a Solar Flare. There's a stun. It's going to be a 1,000 gold shutdown. DNK dashing forward. But now the collapse from SBTC is here. This teleport, I don't know how much it's going to get, but they're going to go for the play regardless. Zemper's there. Hook will land. And into the backside goes the Gwen. The first kill is easy. Taken out onto the Ahri as the Jhin rockets or bullets continue to fly. Coded. Popped up in the air. They should be able to smack him with a bullet any moment. There it is. Oh. Emperor will get the kill. DNK will get another reset. If they want it, I think they should go for this. Oh, they don't even need to with the end of the line living up to its name as they kill the Xayah as well. And what started as a good play for Luxury ends with SBTC getting a Baron.
So on one hand, in a fight like this, I was having trouble seeing how SBTC was going to get onto Vit. But the return of this is that if you're leading in a game like this, it's difficult for Vit to step up and really try to put pressure in auto-attacking. Because if you're lethality Xayah, you throw in feathers, you pull them back every once in a while, and it's a to and fro, and you get some burst damage. But it doesn't work when you're this like on-hit lethality Xayah with the Gale Force. And you saw the effects right there. Vit is pretty much the only member that can put out damage outside of Blazes. Blazes went down so quickly that the only damage dealer remaining was just the Xayah, and the Xayah can't step up to put out damage. And it opens up SBTC to be able to kind of pick one member at a time. You could see Coded got pulled in and basically was just thrown to the wolves because there's no way for them to stop him from going down. Actually ended up leading to Vit's death as well. But this is, again, SBTC kind of collapsing with 4 members, understanding they're so much stronger than what Luxury is able to bring to the table. It's all started with just the one pick. They burnt so much trying to get onto 2T that it meant the rest of the team was able to be there on the reinforce.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they burnt one ult too many there. They just did not need to do. Killer Queen as well seems to not know what he was doing, and they just end up getting caught.
And you can see, like, Vit is in the face of Emperor. He has to leave because of how terrifying Emperor is. And look how far back they have to position now. They're just on full retreat. It was a nice little bit of CC that actually came through from Paulette once again to be able to lock down the Graves, to be able to put them in a position. That W is actually quite nice as well. The last bit of end of the line is what got Vit at the tail end of things. But look how difficult it is to fight out a team fight now for the side of Luxury. We were expecting them to have a better earlier stage of the game. I was expecting them to play more to their bottom side, but they didn't end up doing any of that. They've lost.
Flash forward. CBL, they're trying to take a fight. They do blow up an isolated 2T, so it's a good start to a fight as the rest of SBTC are just trying to get away there. DNK holds up Blazers as he tries to go over the wall with a charm. Doesn't quite land it onto Paulette. It's a 4v5, and with the Infernal Drake on the map, this is a good one for Luxury. This should deny the soul.
Hopefully that is the position. DNK is going to be tested here a little bit because he and Killer Queen, he's got a level on Killer Queen, but that doesn't really matter. Jhin ult.
Yeah, and they're going to go in immediately. They should be able to blow this Leona up. They do it easily. One more shot still available from the Jhin as they trade back. Okay. Now it's a 3v4. Vit charging forward, wants to try and get onto Paulette. Can't quite do it. Ember has to go over the wall, and with no smite, it will be 5 minutes delay on that soul.
What a hold coming out from the side of Luxury, because like you said, 5-minute delay actually pushes this game into later territory. I don't love the fact that Luxury is taking this game even longer, because again, their gold is still dramatically lower than what we see anything from the side of SBTC, but at minimum, they give themselves more of a chance to potentially come back in this game, even if it is incredibly low. So props to them. Finding the pick onto 2T, he's been punished a couple times for the positioning. The first one was on top side. That actually led to a really good position. This bottom side play, I was really lost as to what they were doing there, because the tower wasn't even down. You can see the mid or the bottom inner is still there. So I don't know what 2T was doing between the towers, looking or fishing for some kind of kill. But unfortunately, it led to his demise, which opened up this possibility of having the dragon go over to the side of Luxury.
It really does. And honestly, SBTC have gotten very little out of this Baron. It was a Baron of opportunity rather than the one they really needed to use. It's coded. Ults away. Nothing lands. But Enpa decides he wants to keep going anyway. But with that last tick of the needlework missing, I think he will decide to back right off.
Yep. Just going to take off. Bottom tower getting aggressed against. There's no reinforce here from the side of Luxury, so they won't push any further. Ultimate's gone to coded.
Oh, in they go. That's a one-shot. As a hook to follow it up onto CBL as well. Lovely assassination there by SBTC.
Easy enough for them to be able to actually accomplish that feat. Really nice, actually much faster rotation into supporting the bottom side play coming out. Even though the needlework, like you talked about, Emperor wasn't quite able to tag enough of those to actually push Coded back on their own. Coded staying underneath the tower alongside Vit meant that they were trying to mount some kind of defense on the rest of the bush that would come out. And it's another situation where like this Vex and the dive potential coming out from the champion is set up by Paulette so masterfully that they're able to pull Coded completely out. And the better part is actually the ultimate afterwards from 2T was able to keep Vit in completely defensive positioning as opposed to being able to posture forward and throw out additional feathers. You can see this is the one shot like you talked about, and there's a bit of mid space that CBL just gets completely run down in, but Vit, again, taking the Shadow Surge means you can't put out feathers, you can't really put out DPS, because then you get jumped on by 2T and the game just ends right then and there. So 2T putting a stop to any counterplay that, again, Luxury has.
I have to say, yeah, look, it's been a back and forth for sure in the last little bit. The issue was that it wasn't back and forth early in the game. Imagine if Luxury had been able to play this kind of mid-game and they weren't horrendously down in gold. It gives me a little bit of hope for Game 2 and potentially Game 3. Of course, we don't play best of 1 in the VCS, so SBTC needs to do this twice for it to really mean anything, as they have broken all of the outer towers. Only the base remains. And 2 minutes on Dragon, 1 minute on Baron.
It's a situation where, like, miracles can happen from the side of Luxury in positions like this. Being able to take away Dragons, take away Barons, get gold back in your pocket. One solid team fight can kind of make all the world of difference that comes through for a team like this. And especially in setups like this, the reason why it's a potential miracle instead of just a very slow victory from SBTC is because all of their consistent damage is in melee range, which can be punished by a number of people from Luxury if the gold really does start to stack up. Because you are a 3-item Zaya, you are a 3-item Ahri, you're starting to get damage. Even like 3-item Graves is on the table here for Coded within range of like these objectives. it's there. Like, Luxury's not completely out of striking distance. They're down 10k. It's still very much favored for the side of SBTC, don't get me wrong. And it's expected that, I mean, if they get Infernal Drake safely, like, the game is probably just over for SBTC right then and there. But Luxury is not without the ability to potentially take fights still.
Yeah, it's very scary to be DNK or even 2T jumping into the backline at the moment as a Vex. You don't even have full Zonyas. You've got a stopwatch that helps you once. But it's pretty spooky as in goes the play. They manage to do it perfectly. They blow up the Ahri immediately. The next target hasn't actually fallen as DNK is continuing trying to get damage. There it is. Killer Queen will fall and then in onto CBL. Vit is next on the chopping block, hit by the E of the stolen away Viego. Enpa goes down, but he is just a sacrificial lamb to secure the ace as Luxury will fall.
And I need to give props where props are given. I think Paulette's had an amazing game, and that right there put it on full display. The combination of Paulette and 2T at the beginning of fights, or just being able to pull on, kind of pick off angles, right there was put on full display. Because you get the immediate pick on the Blazes, you get this incredible Nautilus ultimate through all 5 members, and at that point, the play's dead from Luxury. There is no counterplay to come out. Killer Queen tries to get into the backline to do something in response, but it just is never going to net them an absolute win. So here, now, I mean, they get the top inhibitor, which is going to be big. There's some potential for Luxury to come back, but the biggest thing is that they get to back, redeploy into Dragon, grab the Infernal Soul. This is what I'm talking about as well. The Q and the ultimate into the backline. Look at that. 4 members knocked up. And again, Killer Queen looked for something, but the play is dead right here, right now. The damage is here. Emperor gets into the backline, which is also a terrifying feat, something that we hadn't really considered because we wanted to see whether or not Luxury were able to kind of be resilient and find something, but unfortunately, it's just not in the cards for them right now.
And there is the Dragon. SE are able to opt into another full 5v5. Enpa using that dash. The Everfrost comes out that he has to dodge away from. But as you said, they could redeploy. We have all of these items in SE's pocket. This would take a miracle here for Luxury. And the miracle only buys them time as Paulette once again lands a hook into a good ultimate to delay this Ahri's entrance to the fight. 2T bearing down on him, uses the ultimate to go into the backside, misses the reset, and he will actually fall. As there was a steal away on the Dragon as well, so Infernal Soul not secured by Killer Queen. But it looks like they are just going to try and inside track them. As DNK moving down, throws out the gas. Can they spot these backs? They can. Blazers goes for the flash charm, misses it horribly. As now Jin opens up with the ult. One lands. All they have to do is delay backs. Enpo is already in the base, Rebel. Blazers, you need to try and find a recall, but I don't think it exists. Vit knows that this game is over. As Blazers is the last man standing. Even if he got back, I don't know what he could do. Just pad your KDA, mate. He'll get the kill, but that'll be it as we go to the base. Enpa is on the Nexus. He's got CBL to tango with. He's actually only got 3 seconds away from Killer Queen. As it doesn't matter because the rest of SBTC is here. This will be the Nexus falling, and this will be game 1 of the series over to SBTC.
Again, there's moments of resilience. There's times where Luxury look like they have an idea of how they want to play out certain situations, but it seemed like they completely lost direction for their composition to kick off a game like this. I feel like you don't play into Graves to kick off in a game. You're just okay with the lane going completely even between them and the Gwen. And you try to play the mid lane very effectively to break out your RA to kind of punish 2 teams.